How and where Canadians may invest in Florida real estate, how short-term rentals earn double that of long-term rentals, not just for ROI, but ROL, return on life, and more on this in this week's episode of the Truths About Real Estate Investing show for Canadians. My name is Erwin Cito, four-time Realtor of the Year to investors, proud Canadian, but no. For you, the listener, at least half of you who responded to our survey, you'd like to learn more about how Canadians may invest in the USA. 91% of you wanted a webinar or workshop. 50% of you mentioned specifically you want to learn more about Florida, which is why. And why not? Since there's no state tax, it's the home to Mickey Mouse, and the sun is always shining there. I'm joking. Except when it hurricanes, but don't worry. I'm asking today's guest expert in Ryan Poole, with over 20 years experience living and investing in Florida. I asked him about hurricanes and insurance too. Before we get to learning about Florida, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's come by and said hi when you see me in public. I ran into one of our 17 listeners at Costco, and we were discussing, sadly, how he's getting his butt kicked in Sudbury, hence he's selling. And I told him the numbers look much better in the Sunbelt states of the USA. No snow, no frozen pipes. And we're talking about Sudbury, so I can't even imagine how cold things get. Do they plug in their cars there? I'm sorry, I'm so ignorant. There's no rent control in the Sunbelt states, nor LTB. Hence he booked a call with me. I'm always happy to book a call with any one of our 17 listeners and 350 past clients. Others I ran into were at the Ontario Landlord Watch Conference out in Cambridge, hosted by the lovely Kayla Andrade. People came up to me and thanked me for being a source of news entirely relevant to the Canadian real estate investor. I was speaking to another investor who's owed $175,000 in one private mortgage gone wrong. Unfortunately, they invested in the wrong investor, who is the leader and host of the wrong networking group. You can probably read between the lines if you know who I'm talking about. I told her literally I knew they were trouble. He was trouble. They were trouble. And because I personally knew one of the earlier victims, Tom Sullivan, who detailed his experience of loss on my podcast back in 2019. Tom Sullivan, Google it, Truth About Real Estate Investing show. He'll tell you exactly what happened without naming names, because nobody here wants to get sued, especially me. Due diligence so often would have saved so many investors a lot of money and stress. I just got off a phone with a client who's in the middle of suing another person, someone completely unrelated, from a very large key real estate network. So someone else is suing someone else over private money that's not being paid. I'm no different. I have PTSD from con artists, which has simply fueled my analysis paralysis and my forever search for the truth. For example, the YouTube algorithm suggested for me a video fact-checking my favorite geopolitics analyst, Peter Zeihan, and one of my favorite gurus, Bridgewater founder, Ray Dalio. The channel is called Money and Macro, and I've binge watched it already, and it's been awesome. I do love staying informed and learning about economics, austerity, why rich countries are not having enough babies, Japan's rocky economic history. Remember, Japan was expected to surpass the US but in terms of economy, but they didn't. They've actually done quite poorly. Not that bad. I still think they're the fourth largest economy in the world. Point is, I'm looking to learn so I may leverage the lessons from history to make better investment decisions going forward into the future. Based on my research, it's showing that the US will remain a top superpower in the world, if not the number one top hyper super mega power in the world. The US dollar is going nowhere in my lifetime, probably my kids' lifetime as well, as the world reserve currency. And combined with my experience of being on a landlord in Ontario, I've decided to deploy my capital south of the border, as the U.S. government is investing heavily in bringing manufacturing back to the USA. Some stats are saying that the USA will double their manufacturing within 5 years. Even if it's within 10 years, their economy is going to grow. It's going to cause more inflation, and then of course their dollar will appreciate. I think most people in the world can appreciate that you need more US dollars, everyone should diversify at least a little bit to US dollars over their home currency. Because I don't know of anyone outside of North America who would prefer to be paid in Canadian dollars over US dollars. Anyways, so yeah, again, we're talking about thousands of jobs being created in the USA from manufacturing, and a lot of these jobs are six-figure jobs. And then also appreciate that a lot of these jobs will create 4 to 5 spin-off jobs. Plumbers, dentists, waitresses, all the spin-off businesses that go to support these thousands and thousands of new jobs. So we're talking about tens of thousands of new jobs with each of these new manufacturing plants opening up in the States. For example, did you know that the world's largest contract chip maker, which is based in Taiwan, TSMC, so Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co., is investing $40 billion in a chip manufacturing facility in Phoenix, Arizona. Doesn't that sound lovely? And guess what? The average price of a home in Phoenix, Arizona is the same as Calgary, Ontario. I love Calgary. I love Albertans. They're such lovely people. But honestly, I'd rather visit Phoenix, Arizona than go to Calgary. And TSMC they will be creating 4,500 manufacturing jobs. 4,500. And this is why all governments want manufacturing in their backyard, because again, it brings off those additional 4 to 5 spin-off jobs. So that could be another 16,000 jobs on the conservative side, talking 20,000 new jobs just from one employer. And this is Phoenix, Arizona we're talking about. This is one of the fastest growing cities in the world already, because it's the recreational property area for California, right? So again, anyways, whatever. So let's flip back to Canada. Toyota, the world's largest car manufacturer, is looking for funds to build an EV batteries or car manufacturing in Cambridge, Ontario. But unfortunately, Cambridge average real estate is $800,000 per home. That's Canadian dollars. So that's a lot more. That's probably about a third more than a house in Phoenix. Unfortunately, our governments are out of funds. The Americans can simply just hit harder. They have much deeper pockets than Canada. Hence, Toyota will be looking to Michigan, North Carolina, or Texas. Follow the money, my 17 listeners. Where there are thousands upon thousands of high-paying manufacturing jobs, humans will move there to make more money for lifestyle and affordable housing costs. For example, I can buy a suburban 3-bedroom, 2 full bath, 2-car garage in most top towns, in Sunbelt states, in the suburbs of top 10 towns, for about the same price I would pay for a home in Edmonton, Alberta. Again, I love Albertans. I think you're all lovely people. But I'd much rather visit the Sunbelt of the USA, including Texas. My Alberta friends say Alberta's the Texas of Canada. I'm just going to go to Texas. And of course, yes, the taxes and the rules are all much better in Alberta than Ontario and BC. That goes without saying. But again, if I'm going to fly, I'd rather fly south. Yeah, straight up. For me to fly to Calgary is the same it takes me to fly to Dallas. So I'll choose warmer weather. Anyways, also appreciate that it's a buyer's market right now in most of the top 10 towns in Sunbelt states. Also, they have way larger populations with more diversified economies, and so to me, the investment decision is pretty easy. The entire province of Alberta, is 4.4 million. Right, I know that number's a few years old, but just to be fair, the same year, Greater Dallas area. So just one city, Greater Dallas area is 7.6 million. So one city is bigger than the entire province of Alberta. Right, from my research, the top landlord-friendly Sunbelt states, cities in the states, and then when you combine the fact that we can get commercial-style mortgage financing, which is way easier than I'm used to getting. I'm often having to cough up financial reports for 4, 5, 6 different corporations when I get a mortgage. Mortgage people hate me. Versus, I just need to come up with a down payment. My rents need to cover my expenses, and I can get a mortgage in the States. To me, it just makes so much more sense. For the listener, I'm not telling you what to do. but I do believe it's in your best interest to at least get educated on what options are available in the USA before buying your next investment property, especially if you're considering buying in BC or Ontario. We here at The Truth About Real Estate Investing will be offering deeper dives, and we're doing more so at our IWIN meetings. We'll be discussing, by the time this comes out, the November meeting will pass, where we're to be talking about investing in long-term rentals in Florida, Texas, Atlanta, upstate New York. And we're talking, and then we have Darvin Zurflu, who is the owner, founder of Pinnacle Wealth Brokers, and he's invested in hundreds of acres in recreational property in Canada. So there's still lots of great opportunity in Canada, but you'll notice that we're talking less about long-term rentals in Ontario or BC. And also in January, we're talking about January, we'll have a wonderful meeting. I have a friend of mine who was part of Starlight Investments, and he underwrote, and part of the team that managed 20,000 units. So he'll be sharing how he analyzes markets and properties, and that'll be in January. Yeah, understand we generally kind of shut down in December. It seems everyone has better things to do to celebrate the holidays than talk about real estate. We also have Victoria Clooney coming up on the show. She'll be sharing how she grosses 6 figures. She generates over $100,000 per month in short-term rental money from her motel in Nova Scotia, Canada. So that is real estate, but it's short term. There's no long-term tenants. See a theme here? Owning real estate is absolutely still a must for anyone who wants to defend or grow their wealth. But ideally, again, avoid those investments where rent control or a dysfunctional landlord-tenant board is involved. All right. There's many people in Ontario and BC who have not received rent for months or well over a year. So always consider that may be a worst case scenario. So try to avoid that if possible. On to this week's show. Our guest is basically a Canadian, as he grew up in Minnesota near the border with Manitoba. Ryan grew up north, and he actually where he lived was actually north of the vast majority of Ontarians. I believe he was actually in line with basically Thunder Bay, which is again probably live like north of over 90% of Ontarians. So he knows hockey, he knows snow, he knows black flies and cold winters. Then he smartened up, he moved to Florida and participated in some roller coaster markets, including the financial crisis and housing market crash of 2007, 2009. Ryan will share his experience and how he made a killing back then. Ryan is well beyond just being a realtor. He's the founder and CEO of Real Trade Inc., which is like the Facebook marketplace for real estate professionals. And so anyone around real estate, so it could be tradespeople, handy people, fence people, home inspectors, appraisers, real estate lawyers, realtors, of course. They also host real estate listings, which is a smart diversification play for any American realtor who wants to keep control of the listings versus the Zillows and Redfin that just rebrand all listings with their own agents. Anyways, on the Florida real estate side, Ryan recounts how he made money buying bad mortgages from the banks for pennies on the dollar back in 2009 and beyond. He talks about the current market inventory and demand situation, short-term or hybrid rentals, hybrid rental being a split between midterm and short-term rental. For example, midterm would be like a 6-month, and then the rest of the time could be short-term rental. This is a new term for me. So Ryan explains what hybrid rentals are. Sounds fantastic. We talk about hurricane insurance and the changes to construction based on hurricanes and based on changes to the building code. So you want to make sure you pay attention to what year where things really improved to make property safer for hurricanes. And we talk about landlord and tenant laws and tax benefits. And then we spend quite a bit of time on what's fun to do in South Florida. Again, 50% of survey respondents asked specifically for Florida. I think we're here for the people, and I give you Ryan Poole. Please enjoy the show. Hi, Ryan. What's keeping you busy these days?
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me on. Man, just here in the trenches with real estate, I have my own clients, obviously, that I've been servicing, for years, a lot of investors, and obviously staying busy with Real Trade. We've been a little over 2 years, and we're growing every single day. I have thousands of users, not only agents, but other service providers like lenders, title companies, attorneys, and a lot of buyers and sellers using the platform. So it's full on in the trenches real estate 24/7 for this guy.
And so you are a realtor and investor, but obviously wear other hats. You have your own real estate tech startup as well.
Yep.
That's in your dad.
But
You find
dad,
time for that.
I want to mention that I have a 7-year-old son, and I'm actually coaching him in baseball. So 6, 7, and 8 year olds is my weekends right now with them. So, but it's so fulfilling. I enjoy it. I know you have children too, and it's very rewarding.
Yeah, yeah. You think you're selling yourself short. It's not just baseball. I see you scuba diving and deep sea fishing and all these
Oh
other,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
in
no,
the
he
middle of
enjoys the
November.
outdoors like his dad, ironically, right? No, you spent a lot of time on the boat. As you know, I'm a big sportsman, so I love, fishing. I'm a big free diver and spear fisherman, and we do a lot of hunting here in South Florida too. We got a lot of public land here in Florida to do hunting. So turkeys, deer, wild hogs. We do all that fun stuff too. So
Tell me about spearfishing. That sounds hard. Because it's not
let me,
like the spear goes that far. Like you have to be
yeah,
pretty close
yeah.
range, and you're sneaking. You're sneaking up on fish.
Yeah, and I do it free diving too, because it's actually like the
so,
best day.
so that
So
means you don't have
yeah,
an air supply.
yeah, so you're holding your breath, right? And it's actually one of the best things that I did is I took a freediving class about, gosh, it must have been about 15 years ago now, and really teaches the techniques of breathing, getting your heart rate down, your kicking, the right, mass and fins to use, and yeah, it's amazing. Once you learn it, and I used to scuba dive before, I was like, wow, why was I having these big scuba tanks and having to fill them up and spend all this
Yeah,
money?
big production. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big production. And freediving, you just jump in and you're out there enjoying the ocean, and then spearfishing, which you have a spear gun. So it's you actually use big rubber bands that actually propel the actual spear forward. And yeah, you have to get pretty close. You can't shoot really far underwater. But one thing about Florida is, we're very lucky here in South Florida because we have really clear water. So
Mhm.
it's very rewarding to be able to see the fish at like from the top when you're like 80 feet of water, and dive down and hunt them as you're going down, and then you're getting great exercise, right? And then you get to come home with dinner. I mean, how much fun
But,
is that?
but if you can see them, they can see you. Like, are these really
Yeah,
unintelligent fish?
some of them are. There are. I mean, some of the fish obviously are smarter than the others, but yeah, you have some techniques where you try come directly right on top of them, and they have camo wetsuits, Irwin. So you can have camo wetsuits, so they break up your outline so they don't see you as easily. And then you use what are called flashers, which are actually like distractors, where kind of they're seeing these shiny things in the water that are floating along with you, and they come and check them out, so it distracts them a little bit, so you can dive down and get a shot at them. I know
All
it's
right.
actually it's one of my biggest passions, and I mean that's one thing about Florida. There's just so many cool things to do here and enjoy, and
Yeah.
it's
All
a
right.
great lifestyle.
So I said before we're recording, it was 0 degrees this morning. That's 32 Fahrenheit. Is that right?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was out biking this morning, so I was up at 4:30. I had my bike on the road at 5:30. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was like 72 degrees this morning.
Right. So it's about
So little,
20, right? Is that 20?
yeah, yeah.
26 Celsius. Yeah.
Yeah, and little Christmas in the air, which was perfect. So it's just God, it's so nice to ride around. Rode about 30 miles this morning. It's just beautiful. We're very lucky. Like literally, like in the next couple weeks, the full humidity will break, and it's just like someone turned a light on, and it's just beautiful weather now. And until like almost through June.
So this is why. So for the listeners' benefit, we sent out a survey what people want to know more about U.S. investing.
Hmm.
Half respondents said they want specifically named Florida. So I immediately reached out to you, Ryan, because you've been in Florida
Yeah,
for how long?
over
You've
20,
been doing Florida real estate how long?
20, 25 years. 25 years.
25 years. Okay.
I've had been active full time in real estate for 25 years. Active as not only an agent, partners in a brokerage, own a real estate asset management company, my own investment properties. Yeah, I've been living that for 25 years. I was way ahead of the curve. Obviously we had this big migration after COVID, and during COVID, it's just, I mean, it's been phenomenal, Florida, especially the last 3 years
Mhm.
of the quality of people moving down, the reasons people are moving down. I mean, used to be before a lot of people were retirement, right? Looking for second homes or retiring. But now, you have a big migration of, I mean, we're getting people from California, New York that are actually moving here to headquarter their business and actually raise families and all those good things. So they're bringing a lot of that culture and, that expertise, right, from their different industries here. And it's
Mhm.
just, It's incredible. I mean, now West Palm, now, we're becoming known as the Wall Street of the South. I'm looking at my office, out my office window here, Erwin, looking at this big office building, and Goldman Sachs just took a whole floor out of that. So they have a big headquarters here. And, Ken Griffin, I don't know if you heard about that. One of the biggest real estate plays in the world. He's building a huge estate here in Palm Beach, big hedge fund, guy. They're estimating by the time he's done, $1 billion piece of real estate residential.
Excuse me? What is it? A baseball park? What is it?
It's actually a big oceanfront. Like, he actually took about 5 different properties, Erwin, and bought them over the last about 10 to 12 years. And he's combined them now to one huge oceanfront estate. And they're
And
going
he's
to be estimated with his plans, once he's done, right, building his home there, it's going to be worth close to $1 billion. Yeah. Isn't that
is he
crazy?
making
I mean, dude, I mean, just so you know, too, another friend of mine, had just listed a property too. He took it off. I think he's probably going to be putting it back on, but a $250 million home on Palm Beach called
excuse
Tarpon
me?
Island.
Does it
$250 million.
come with a golf course? Or
It's actually,
five?
ironically, it's like its own little island, even though it's connected to Palm Beach Island with a bridge. They said, it's its own island, but yeah, we're right down here in the thick of it in real estate. Luckily I moved right here in Palm Beach County.
Mm-hmm.
As we know, where Donald Trump has his Mar-a-Lago,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Mar-a-Lago right here in Palm Beach. I actually by his place this morning.
You ever golf there?
Well, he doesn't have a golf course there at Mar-a-Lago, but he owns like 4 different courses here in South Florida.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is Mar-a-Lago? I thought there was a golf course there.
It's actually, Mar-a-Lago is like a beach club. So it's actually
Oh,
on the ocean, right? Mar-a-Lago is on the ocean, and it goes from the ocean to the intercoastal. You got to come down here, Erwin. I'll bring you by there. We can not only go drive by it, but the cool thing is to see it from the boat, because it goes to the intercoastal, and then we can go around and see it from the ocean side and see his beach club. So
interesting. I'm
this,
so confused because like the news was always saying Trump's at Mar-a-Lago, but they showed footage of him golfing.
well, he's got his golf club here in West Palm Beach too, right? The Trump International, Golf Club right here, which is just back over the bridge and then on the mainland. But Mar-a-Lago itself is on Palm Beach Island.
Fascinating. And is that where they hosted the Live Tour event? We're getting really
No,
sidetracked.
that was down. Then he has another golf course down in Miami, right? He has a golf course I think it's Turnberry, that he owns down in Miami. That they had the big live tournament, which was a big shakeup here because I don't know if you knew this, but there's tons of pro golfers that live
Tons of
right.
pro golfers.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Jack has his home right here in Palm Beach Gardens,
Yeah.
North Palm
Yeah.
Beach area. I mean,
But
Greg
a lot of the
Norman.
young guys,
Oh yeah,
like Justin Thomas and his good buddy, forgetting names right now.
I mean,
Jordan Spieth. Yeah.
yeah, Jordan Spieth. Yeah, they all have homes here. Tiger Woods just built his big, expensive, course there, private course up there in Hope Sound, and a lot of them, golf there. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
I used to golf, Erwin. You know what I mean? And I got out of it. Now golf stands for game over. Let's fish. I spent a lot of time on the water. I joke that my golf game and my bowling score were about the same, about 100, and I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah. Welcome to my world. Oh, so let's talk about. Give us a market overview. Where are things now? So for anyone who's new to meeting Ryan, reading Ryan for the first time, I think we might have picked up a listener or two beyond 17 listeners now. So this is your third time back on the show, I think it is.
Yes.
And last time you were telling me because we focused a lot on how now is different than back in '07 to '09 during the financial crisis.
Yep.
Let's touch on that. Like, let's touch on that. Like, can you like you lived through it? You were doing everything. You were an asset manager. You were an investor. You were you had a ownership in a brokerage, like
Hmm.
through a period that almost the world that almost ended, and you were like ground zero,
Yeah.
pretty much for like real estate devastation.
It
What was it
was.
like then? What's it like now?
Yeah, well then, obviously, there was a big reason for the crisis back in '08, right? It was the mortgages. They had a point where I remember in '08, right at the peak, right before the crash, so end of '07, beginning of '08. I remember, there were teachers buying second homes within 10 miles of their own home with no money down on a, a negative AM loan where they were cash flowing from the start because it was a negative AM. And I was like, wow, how could this last this much longer? And it wasn't too much longer after that. The things crashed because everybody was highly leveraged, right, with
Right.
their loans, and all of a sudden the prices, all of a sudden started to fall, and
Sorry, Ryan. What's negative AM? Is that where you get paid money when you close?
no, the negative AM means that you're not paying anything towards the principal, so it actually adds on to the principal every single month.
Oh, interest only.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So
Okay.
interest only negative amortization. So actually, it goes higher every year. Your balance every single month. And that was
Interest
a loan
only,
is
no
one
money down.
no money down.
Any
And
credit
yeah, so they were
requirements?
like, I know it was incredible, and there was obviously these lenders got creative at the peak with that product when the prices got so high,
Yeah.
and they were creating that product, and that's when I kind of knew things weren't myself looking that great, and yeah, then we obviously had the crisis, and everybody overnight, all of a sudden their homes were worth half of what they paid for or less, and it just happened so fast, and I remember sitting there in real estate and I was stressed out about it. I had a lot of clients. I'm like, man, what are we going to do? And one of my good friends, Bill by Mel, you're right, a very forward thinking real estate guy, said, this thing has to shake out some way. Like, you're going to have all these foreclosures. How is this going to work out? And we're sitting there. And then one day, I had a listing. I had a basically a hedge fund call me and say, hey, can you do a BPO for this property we have? And, you might get the listing. And I just, my sense just started speaking to him, and I'm asking, like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, we're a hedge fund and we're buying non-performing loans, and we just need to know what this property would be worth if we got it back. And
Oh, sorry.
started
What's a BPO?
a broker price opinion,
Ah, okay, okay.
comparative market analysis, I guess
Right,
is
right, right. Yeah,
would
yeah.
be a
We
better
call it
opinion.
CMAs, comparative
So
market
that's when all of a
analysis.
sudden,
Yeah.
like, a light went off. I was like, wow, this is how it's going to work out, is these big hedge funds are going to go and buy these loans from all these banks, these regional banks, and they're going to buy them at big discounts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're gonna, get them back, and then they're gonna, do whatever, whether they rent them or they sell them. Well, they all wanted to sell them, so they would go to the borrowers. They bought these notes. Let's say, just use for instance, like a note for, $300,000. The house, the mortgage was. Well, the house now is worth, let's say, $150 or less. Might have
Mm-hmm.
been worth less, maybe 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were buying the notes for like 10 cents to 15 cents on the dollar. So they were buying the loans for like 30 to 40 grand,
Right, right.
you know, and then they would go to the borrower and go, hey, we're the new mortgage holder. You can either make your payments at a $300,000 loan at this interest rate, or if you want, you haven't paid in 6 months, we could make this whole thing go away. You could sign the property to us deed in lieu of foreclosure. We'll give you full forgiveness of debt, no deficiency, and just like to walk away like this thing never happened. And that's what they did, Erwin.
Right.
Is they did that. And a lot of times they would give him cash for keys. So they even give him 5 grand to buy a new place, to go rent a new place. So
So
that's
wait,
how
wait. They're forgiving the entire mortgage and giving them money.
they gave him money, Erwin. Because you got to remember, they got the note at like 30, 40 grand, and the house is,
Right.
somewhere between 100 to
Mm-hmm.
150,000, right?
Mm-hmm. And the
And
note
so,
is the mortgage. Like
yeah, the
they are
mortgage,
now the lender.
they're the lender. Yeah. Yeah. So they were like, either A, okay, bring current. You have all these, late fees, and your house is worth, X amount, half of what you paid for it. If they couldn't do that, which almost no one could, right? But I was wondering, like, how is this thing going to shake out? Like, I'm like, you have all these people that are going to be in foreclosure, and no one wants to pay in their house,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there's worth half of what they paid for it. Well, that's how it worked out. And yeah, so I got relationship with these hedge funds that were buying these loans, and then it just grew into that. And at one timer, when I had 250 million under management, just myself, that I was helping these banks, through these hedge funds through that whole process.
Right.
And
So sorry, the 250 million, is that the value of the properties?
yeah, well, that was
Is
the
it the money
value
to
of,
buy the notes?
yeah, that they were buying notes and under management, that they were buying the notes and then seeing them through foreclosure, then liquidating, the disposing of the assets.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
And do you still do this?
No, so that dried up,
Mm.
unfortunately, which is, no, I mean, it's a good thing. It was a sign the economy, was progressing, right? And it just got
Mm-hmm.
way more competitive. The hedge funds got out, and now loans, the way the market is right now, they're trading at, like, face value, right? They're not.
Mm. Okay, so no
Yeah, there's
Mino
not any.
involved.
Yeah, there's not much money to be made in the note, but you can get. You can. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can hunt and find some good deals, but like
Yeah.
huge, like bulk deals, which those hedge funds needed to make the returns they were after. Yeah, that doesn't exist like it did.
When you say bulk deals, how many
So
mortgages were they
this.
buying at a
I mean, that's the
time?
thing. It was an interesting business, Erwin, because basically these hedge funds were bidding on these big portfolios of loans. So they were, buying 100, 200 loans at a time. And so, yeah. And the average investor, right? Like, let's say if you were a note investor at that time, like to even bid on those loans would be very difficult because they were only traded in a couple different, trading rooms on Wall Street that have
Right.
access to them, right? Ironically, it was some of the like, Bear Stearns guys that started these funds buying the notes. The guys that had run up on the other side got it coming
Make
back
money
down
on it.
on
Yeah.
that side. Those Wall Street guys are pretty sharp, Erwin, and so yeah, so it was like, it was kind of an I would say like an old boys network, but there was only just a few people that were bidding on those loans, and yeah, there was all these regional banks, right, that were just like, hey, we don't even have the manpower to see these foreclosures through. We can't spend this much money on attorneys to go through the foreclosure, so they just wanted to get those loans off their books.
No wonder everyone hates Wall Street.
It is. It was incredible. But anyway, so that worked through, right? I did that, and we serviced these funds. And not only were they buying loans, and then they started buying other distressed assets like short sales and foreclosures as well, right? And but yeah, that just got competitive. And then I, obviously got back into general real estate and did that and worked for some developers selling some new construction when that came back. And then but then I saw the writing on the wall with tech, right? I'm like, man, I have to get into tech. That's where the industry's going. And then, like I said, a little over 2 years ago, started Real Trade.
Tell us what was the, because it's not just about getting into tech. You're trying to solve a problem. What is the problem you're
Yeah.
trying to solve with Real Trade?
Yeah. So the big problem is, as an industry insider, right? As an agent, the way that Zillow, basically in these large portals like Zillow, realtor.com, Trulia, and I'm not exactly sure how it all works in Canada, but they here in the States, us agents work really hard to get our listings for properties for sale. It's usually personal relationships, right? It's usually you have to meet your client on the golf course, take them out to dinner, which is fun, which I enjoy, but it's a lot of work and time and money and effort. And then you have to pay money, so you get the property ready for sale, you sign a listing agreement, and then you have to pay money to your local MLS boards just for the right to offer that property for sale. It's not cheap, it's expensive. Okay. And then you upload that data, the photos that the property's for sale, you offer the cooperating agreement to the other broker, the buyer's broker, and you put a property on the market, right? Well, the crazy thing is the MLS boards then take that data and then they sell it or give it to these online portals like Zillow, realtor.com. But here's the crazy thing is they actually cover the listing agent up. They don't let the public know who they are, right? And then they make the agents now bid against ourselves for the right to talk to buyers and sellers off our own data. So that was a huge problem because number one, the agents aren't getting the best data, right? They're not getting the best information. And basically agents, it's almost impossible to build an online presence of anything lasting because you can't through these online marketplace where everybody's going.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, what if there was a different way to do this?
Yeah. They
What
can
if there
protect
was
their
a way
brand. Yeah.
exactly that they can protect their brand and build an online business? And then the buyers and sellers can go directly to the agents if they want, whether they want to go direct to listing agent or find their own buyer's agent, right? So that's pretty much the
Right.
impetus of the problem we wanted to
Right.
solve.
And the
But the
public
big thing,
generally, in my experience, the public generally doesn't know when they've been, because that happens here
oh,
too. Not
yeah,
necessarily
yeah, no, they're sold
those
as a
sites.
lead. It's like a piece of red meter when, they're sold as a lead. In Zillow, everything gets baked in the price, right? Because think about it, like the agents now are spending more money to talk to more buyers or sellers at Zillow, so they got to charge more commissions. It's all gets passed on at the end of the day to the end
Hmm.
consumer. So yeah, I wanted to solve that. And then not to save all the other periphery businesses, right? That you need in a real estate transaction. You're going to need lenders, you're going to need inspectors, appraisers, contractors.
Hmm.
Like there was nowhere for
Stagers. Yeah.
stagers, all
Yeah.
those periphery business roofers. And I was like, wow, there's no place for the public or the agents to network with these service providers, right? In real estate, it's just so fractured. And I said, what if there was a way for everybody to get connected? So that's what we did is we created an online marketplace, different model than Zillow, and we merge it with a social media component. So I tell everybody Zillow,
Oh,
different place.
nice. Kind of like
Yeah,
a LinkedIn for
for
everyone
real
to do with
estate.
real estate.
Yeah, yeah. So we got lenders there. I mean, We got Scott Dillingham with Lens City just signed up, which he helps a lot of foreign buyers, especially Canadians down here in the US. He's on there. And like I said, we got great attorneys that you're going to need, right? Title companies that can handle foreign transactions.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
have that on there. And then, of course, agents,
Hmm.
like myself is on there, obviously, Erwin, that specialize in helping with foreign investors. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting. And, we went from zero to now we got thousands of users from all over the world using the platform and, thousands of agents and other service providers on there too.
It's amazing. Like you've got a business that supports your community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm big
Versus
in,
yeah.
and as you know, real estate at the end of the day, it's still like, relationship business, right? So you make those little tweaks online, right? You make those little connections online, and then you get to know that person in real life, right? And
Hmm.
speak to them on the
Hmm.
phone. So tell you, we're kind of like the kindling on real trade is you can find those connections and then build those relationships on your own later on.
Yeah, I always tell people in real estate, oh, what brokerage do they work with? I'm like, I don't even know. I'm working with this individual.
Yeah.
You know what I
At the end of the
mean?
day, I tell them don't get hung up on brokerages. It really comes to that personal agent with that.
Yeah.
Same with the lenders, same thing, right? It's that personal, service that they're going to give to you. And then expertise, right? That they know that market, they know what's happening and can put you in some areas, right, that have some growth potential.
Hmm. And now, how is the Florida market today? So we're recording this on Halloween.
I know, I love it. You
Do
wanted
you
me
guys
to
trick or
dress up
treat?
or when I should have dressed up.
I know we have cultural differences between Canada and the U.S. Do you guys do Halloween? You guys trick or treat and all that?
Oh yeah, I got my son, or what I'm bringing him trick or treating tonight. He's actually going to be a dinosaur with a cowboy riding him. Is that crazy? They have like this blow up dinosaur, and then he looks
Oh,
like
okay, okay,
riding
yeah.
him. Yeah, I don't know if you
I'll
see.
post the pictures to social media. I want to see this.
Definitely you'll see that, Erwin,
I
for
love
sure.
Halloween pictures. I love people posting pictures of the kids in their Halloween costume.
Yeah, you
It's fun.
celebrate there too, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. My son has Pikachu. My daughter is
Pikachu.
some sort of witch.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love.
they look really ridiculous standing next to each other. Because my daughter's more like a not nice looking, like a mean looking witch, not like a yeah, not like a cartoon witch. Yeah.
Exactly. That's cool.
She said Lady Devil. I don't know, whatever. Yeah,
I
Lady
love it. I
Devil
mean, the
next
kids love it. I mean, you know what? Truth be told, I eat some of that Halloween candy myself. So,
to.
whether my son brings, I might take some away when he's not looking and kind of stash it to the side.
My point is today's Halloween. What's the state of the market in Florida right now, specifically
Yeah.
West Palm? So
Yeah,
actually, oh yeah,
yeah.
sorry,
Well,
go
I
ahead.
can, speak to all of
Oh,
Florida
fantastic, fantastic.
too, and then also West Palm in particular areas, South Florida, right? So right now the home prices here, I'm actually looking right now from September of last year are up 3%,
Oh, you're
right?
up over last year.
Yeah, up over
Okay.
last year, which is one thing, a great indicator of South Florida. And yeah, and at the same time, the number of homes, rose. That's overall condos and homes. Homes rose 4.1, and then the number of homes sale rose 3.2%. So I think that's one thing that here, Erwin, that I want to speak to that, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure it's similar probably in your market too. But our inventory, right, still remains low. And there's, I
Mm-hmm.
think, a couple of indicators too on that, which
Mm-hmm.
makes it challenging, right? Because there's a lot of buyers out there going, gosh, the market's going to crash, the prices are going to come down, things are going to happen because the interest rates are higher. But the reality is, there's a lot of owners in their homes right now that locked in low interest rates, right?
Yeah.
Especially during
Yeah,
COVID, right?
explain that because I didn't even understand that either. Like mortgages in the US are locked in for 30 years, as in your
30
rate is
years.
locked for 30 years.
Yep. Yeah. So
Because it's it's completely different here. About 30% of Canadians or so do variable, so floating debt. The
Well,
other
I was talking to a
70%
lot of
lock in.
investors during COVID, and I said,
Yeah.
listen, the interest rates were got down into the twos.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
listen, like leverage
Lock it
that.
in for 30 years.
Lock it in for 30 years. If the interest rates go up and these prices go up, you guys are going to be golden, right? And
Yeah.
some took advantage, some didn't. Like, oh, we're going to wait. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID, right? And obviously, we had a huge spike from COVID. But like, yeah. So what happens is those buyers and the people that refinance. So the cool thing here in the states that we have here, when is like you can refinance out of that loan anytime you want, right? Most of them don't have a prepayment penalty. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
there was people sitting on probably like 6% loans, maybe 6.5 before COVID. And then once COVID happened and the prices just went, the loan, rates went way down into the twos.
Hmm.
You said, hey, why wouldn't I refi? Like that makes total
Yeah,
sense.
and
My
no
price is going to
penalty.
be no penalty. I can pull out some equity. You know what? We've been talking about doing a pool in the backyard. I can pull out some equity, and my mortgage payment's going to be less, and I got a new pool, right? So that's what everybody did, Erwin. Like, and the stats are about 75 to 80% of homeowners did that here in Florida that had mortgages, right? They refinanced them. So you're at a point now where all these people did that, right? They
Yeah.
refinance. They're sitting on these low interest rates, so they're sitting there, and the Feds think, oh, we're going to slow down the market by putting up these higher interest rates, but it's actually here in Florida, it's kind of had the opposite effect because now no one wants to sell because, hey, they're gonna have to go buy a home at a 7% interest rate. They're gonna have to pay higher property tax, right? Because the property values went up. So there's a bunch of underlying currents there of why the market is still increasing in Florida, and I think will continue to as well.
Yeah, I wish we had that here. Wish more
Yeah.
people
Now,
took
one big
advantage of
thing
that
too
here.
is like the rental rates are so great too. It's like even like, wow, I am stuck in this low interest rate. Rather than selling that, I could rent this home out, which our rental rates, whether it's long term or short term right now,
Hmm.
are really well too. So like the returns are just incredible for a lot of those people that purchased.
Tell me about what do you think is an ideal investment property, and then give me the numbers on it.
Yeah, so I did a webinar on this, um, about 2 weeks ago. I think this is a big thing, right? Like we all love ROI, right? Return on investment. But like, one thing I think for Canadian investors where I've been speaking to a lot of them is they have what's called ROL, which is the return on life. So
Hmm.
I,
Hmm.
I, I think it's something that you get a great return on, that you can get an investment property, start building equity and get a return on your rental, but you can also use, right? That you can come down here and use yourself. And what would solve that problem, and be advantageous would be like a short-term rental property,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
an Airbnb type property, right? That you could rent out and then you could come and use for a couple of weeks a year and have a good return. So that's what I've been seeing investors doing here. And I know there's a lot of things out there that, short-term rentals aren't what they were, a couple of years ago, but here's what we have here in South Florida, particularly in Palm Beach County, okay, is we have a very, low hotel um basically supply, right? Like here in West Palm, I'm looking here in downtown, there's just a handful of hotels downtown,
Hmm.
where people can come here and rent a hotel. So where are they going to go? Well, they still want to come down here and vacation, and that's why the short-term rental market here is still very hot, still some great vacancy rates, right? That they're getting. So like, let's say here we're in West Palm Beach, okay, and
Hmm.
everybody knows Palm Beach Island is right across the way where Donald Trump lives, and we're talking multi-million dollar homes. Well, you can still purchase a single family home here near downtown West Palm Beach in that $300,000 to $400,000 range, right? So let's say you
Hmm.
purchase $3,000 to $4,000 range, and you could have an average, right, of a short-term rental, rate of $5,000 to $6,000 a month that you would have on that home. Now you'd have your carrying
Sorry,
costs.
that's short term rental money. That's
Yeah,
not long
short
term.
term,
That's not rent. That's not
not
someone's
not
1 month
not
rent.
long term. No,
Got it.
long term rental rate. It's going to be your short term rental rate is going to be about double, right, of what your long term rental rate. So
Right, right.
you're probably looking on a long term rate, probably around 2,500 to 3,000, maybe $3,500 a month if you really make the property really nice on a rehab. But yeah, so you're talking considerable. So think about those numbers for a second, right? So you have that, then you have your real estate tax, which are usually going to be, around 2% of the, assessed value. Now, the assessed value isn't exactly the same as the sales price, which I want people to understand. They take the whole neighborhood, they back out your closing cost and real estate commissions and stuff from the sale, because they're not going to tax you on that number, right? So it's not exactly the same as the sales price. So you have about, I would say about 70% of your sales price, and then at 2% is kind of a good equation to use. And then you have your insurance, right, that you have on the home. Now it depends on the home, your insurance, or when I want to people know, like different homes have different insurance, whether
Hmm.
they're in like a higher risk flood area, the type of construction, the type of the roof, what kind of plumbing it has. Those insurance underwriters look at a number of factors when they insure. But I would typically, I would say, like on a on a, let's say like a $300,000 to $400,000 purchase, you're probably talking anywhere like, 3,000 to, maybe $4,000 a year. You would factor in that.
Has it gone up? Because
Yeah.
we talked about it before, like, because West Palm is generally spared from hurricanes.
Yeah. Haven't had a major
how is
hurricane. Yeah, we haven't had a major hurricane hit here since like, the early 1900s, right? Knock on wood, you know. But as far as the West Coast, obviously they've gotten a little bit more, hurricane action there too. But ironically, when I did the webinar, right, with this big insurance, broker, one reason of the high cost of insurance here that affects like everywhere, and I'm sure different places in the country, is like the insurers, right? So you have like different insurers here for home insurance here in Florida. Well, they actually buy insurance too. So they'll actually go get reinsured by another larger company. Now it's these
Mhm.
larger companies now, like the Lloyd's of London's of the world, the large global insurance companies, where these regional insurers are getting their insurance. Well, their prices have gone up too. And they're looking at the forest fires in Canada, they're looking at the flooding in Europe, like they're looking at all these different factors,
Right.
right? When they're doing that. So it's not all just localized as well. So there's a bunch of moving parts that go into it. But it has gone up. The insurance here in South Florida has gone up anywhere from 40 to 60%, in the
Over what
last
period of time?
over the last year.
Oh boy.
Over the last year, I know. But I will say this, like you can't just, keep going up at that number, right? There's going to be a market and there'll just be more people moving in the market. Now we do have what's called citizens insurance, which is kind of like a cooperative that a lot of people buy into where they get a more purchasing power on their insurance. Which a lot of people use for that as well. So there's going to be different options. And I spoke to the insurance agent, and he predicted that the insurance prices will come down, back down over time, but he said it probably stay flat here for the next, couple years, and he could see things coming back down.
That's good to hear. Because I know a lot of people still like Florida.
Yeah.
50% of our survey respondents wanted to hear about Florida.
I mean, you want to have insurance right now. If you're looking at a condo, one nice thing about condos, right, is they have their own insurance that the whole building basically chips into, so it's a little cheaper, and it's in your HOA fees, right, your structural insurance,
Yeah.
which is in your homeowner association fees, which you pay every month to maintain the property and buy insurance.
Yeah.
And usually they include different things like cable and stuff with that as well, because they get like a group rate on cable
Mhm.
and internet and things like that. Yeah.
For the listeners' benefit, HOA is homeowner association fees. We call them condominium fees here.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
exactly the same. And
Yeah.
is there a particular age of building that you're kind of looking for? Because I understand codes have changed through time, and codes have changed to so then buildings are built appropriate for hurricanes.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of things changed in Hurricane Andrew, 1992. Kind of keep that in mind, is a lot of the codes in Florida changed at that time, right? So that was the one that hit, south in the Upper Keys down by Homestead. That was in 1992. And yeah, a lot of things changed with that. So I would say, if you're looking for like quality construction after that time, they changed a lot. And now, the quality construction, even since the 2000s, have been really, really great. Early 2000s, when you started getting those 70s and 80s condo. I mean, everybody remembered what happened with Surfside, that condo that collapsed in Miami. That was a big tragedy. That was a few years ago now. 100 people died. Turns out, like they were saying, like, there was a defect in the quality construction of why that building failed, of the way they built the pool and the underlying foundation of the condos, why that fell.
It was specific
But
to that builder, was it not? Because I don't believe the
yeah,
other area condos had the same issues.
it was that one builder. Yeah, that had issues. Now the local, I mean, the state government did pass a regulation called Regulation 4D, where they're now, if any condos are 25 years or older, if they're closer to the coast, if it's 30 years and older, they have to go through what's called a structural integrity test. So, it's actually needs to be done by a certified Florida engineer or architect. And it's basically a study now that all condos have to go through to make sure that this doesn't happen again,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And if there is issues, then they're going to have to address them, right? I mean, so yeah.
So
So
Ryan, what areas do you like for investment? We've mentioned West Palm several times. Can you let listener know where it is in relation to like the you know
mhm.
where all Canadians go, like Orlando, Fort Lauderdale? Where is it in
Yeah,
relation to
so
these
why
major landmarks?
I'm yeah, I really like West Palm Beach, you know, in relation to other areas in Florida. Is okay, we're about a little over an hour car ride north of Miami. So I'd say we're about, 45, 50 minutes north of Fort Lauderdale, right? Is West Palm Beach. And the thing is here is there's just a less population density, but we have the same exact weather as Miami, Fort Lauderdale, which is that beautiful South Florida weather. Now, if you go just north of here, Irwin, let's say up to like, Stewart, a little north of there, it's a different weather pattern. It'll get a little bit cooler in the winter, and the ocean water isn't quite as nice. One thing that's really advantageous here, which I love as a big outdoorsman and fisherman, is the Gulf Stream, which is like a warm river current. The ocean follows the east coast of Florida, and this is actually where the closest it comes to shore is right here, West Palm Beach. That's why we get those beautiful, like I was mentioning, like 100-foot visibility days. And then it kind of bounces off West Palm and starts to go offshore. So you that affects the weather, right? You have that warmer water where that air is coming over, and that's what's bringing that South Florida, temperatures, right? So
Hmm.
I'm saying you're getting all the benefits of South Florida, all the great weather, but without the
Hmm.
big population density and craziness, which is Miami and Fort Lauderdale, which I love going down there, right? We have the Brightline high-speed train now, which we spoke about in the last podcast, which, I can be down to downtown Miami and Brickell in an hour on a high-speed train and have a beer, a cocktail, and food while I'm going down there, right? So, and then come up here to beautiful West Palm, which is, like I said, that now is becoming known as like, the billionaires and millionaires, here that are moving here and just have a really nice quality of life,
Right. They all want to probably play with Donald
Yeah, the
Trump.
prices here, like in West Palm, compared to like in Miami, are like, considerably less, right? Because you just have a higher density down in Miami than you do, in West Palm, right? So
So you mentioned like a single family home near downtown is like 300,000 to 400,000. How much would that
I
same
mean,
home be? How much would
like in
that same
Miami.
house be closer to Miami?
Yeah, so that would be like, probably 600,000 to 700,000, maybe more, maybe 800,000. You know, if you want to be like near downtown in Miami, Miami area,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is
It's
obviously,
too loud for me, man.
yeah. I mean, Miami's
It's
fun, like for a day or two, but to live there, the traffic's tough. That's another thing in West Palm too that we're getting here. Like remember, we're getting a lot of Northeast, people moving here. California, we're getting some
mhm,
foreign, buyers that are buying to move here too as well. But we have a lot of people from South Florida that want to come up here, right, and escape
mhm.
the craziness. So we're getting it kind of from different directions. So that's why I'm saying, as far as on the equity side of why I'm more bullish on West Palm than I am in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, is because of that, because we have more room for growth.
Last time I stayed in Miami, we're there over the weekend, and the noise was from like 2 a.m. people revving their Lamborghinis and other supercars. Yeah,
Plus,
you
some
in,
kind of conference going on, like the Bitcoin conference or something at that
no, I
time.
wasn't. That wasn't on at that time, but yeah, just the flex cars that you see there. It's not like in big cities where I'm used to, like in Toronto, for example. I'm used to hearing sirens. In
Yeah,
Miami, it's
yeah,
$300,000 cars.
exactly. Like I said, I mean, I like Miami, like I said, but in small doses. So it's just nice to be able to go down there and experience it, and then come up to this beautiful, relaxing area, which is, West Palm Beach area,
Hmm.
Palm Beach County. I want to
Hmm.
speak too to like there's different areas of Palm Beach County. So you have like, West Palm, which is like our metropolitan area, right, where we have all these, the great culture. We have, great museums here, like we would have in any metropolitan area. But then we have a lot of outlying smaller cities like Palm Beach Gardens, Jupiter, Boca Raton, Delray Beach, which are, it's kind of neat. Each city, each area has its like little flavor, right? Of what they
Hmm.
kind of, like Jupiter's more known as more of like a fishing area, right? In a water
Okay.
sports area. Yep.
There's
And
a lot of
then,
golf courses there too. I believe there's
a
a bunch of
lot
PGA
of golf
players that
course.
live in Jupiter, Florida.
A lot of them, a lot of golf course. Actually, all of Palm Beach County is one of the highest density golf courses, in the United States, Erwin. Like
Wow.
per area of number of golf courses, it's a lot. it's a lot. And then like Delray Beach is this very kind of hip, like art kind of, a lot of art festivals, a lot of artists in the area, kind of like bohemian style. So you have all these different, kind of cultures and all these little cities that are very close together. And then you have downtown West Palm Beach that's anchoring them, right? But
Hmm.
then I want to speak to this is you cross the bridge and then you come to Palm Beach Island. Well, that is its own entity, or that is like, you're stepping back in time to some kind of European, very wealthy area where you have these beautiful estate homes and boutique shopping and all these great, world-class restaurants.
Hmm.
And that's all right here. It's not like you're like, have to drive some far destination to get to Palm Beach Island.
Hmm.
It's literally across the bridge.
Actually, so for Canadians coming down to visit you, how many are buying purely for investment, or are they doing mixed use, like return on life, like you're saying?
I would say about 70-80% of them are doing the return on life type investment that I've been working with. Yep. Now I sell a lot to just strictly investors. I mean, I've closed, Erwin, in the last 2 months about four different multifamily projects, right? That have investors that have closed, multifamily properties, which, that market has continued to be, I'm still bullish on the multifamily market down here. The rents that my clients are getting are just incredible on an annual basis. And, to become popular here too, like 6 month rentals as well. So it's kind of like a hybrid in between short term and long term. 6 month rentals, you can kind of thread the needle in between a short term rental price and in a yearly lease. A lot of
Interesting.
people, yeah, doing 6 month rentals. And then another big rental option here, because you have all these corporations now, right, that are moving here, headquartering like Goldman Sachs and Citadel and these other large funds. Well, they need corporate housing, right? So there's just this big need for corporate housing, down here where you have a corporation which will rent a unit out, right? And they just want to be able to sublease it to their other their clients, right? That
Right.
need space,
And
when
they
it
need it
comes.
furnished.
Yeah, they need it furnished. Yeah. So I have clients that are doing that. Another great rental option too is renting to the health industry, healthcare industry, nurses. There's actually platforms now. I just spoke to. I'm gonna have that. They just made a profile on Real Trade called Red Door, where they specialize in just getting traveling nurses and nursing staff into properties, and you could list your property on with them. And then the professional nursing staff, that's going to be rent, and their numbers are higher than you could get on a yearly lease, kind of in between like a short term, you know, rental or a long-term rental. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of options that people can use as far as rental strategies that they have. The big thing is the exit strategy. We're still projected here, anywhere from, I mean, just very conservative, we're in like 5% growth, like I said, even this since September we've been at like 4%, which is incredible.
Which is bonkers, because like here, most of Canada, things are slowed down significantly unless you're in Calgary, because
Really.
yeah, because their housing is much more affordable compared to Ontario or BC. Like I mentioned before, a townhouse in the suburbs is 800 grand in the Greater Toronto area, versus that gets you a pretty big house in Calgary.
Yeah.
So things are a little bit nutty here.
Yeah, we talked about like, yeah, to help me understand a little bit the Toronto market. I know you obviously have the lake, right? That's pinning you in, but then
Hmm.
you have that green area, right? That comes over the top of
Yeah,
you.
that stops
That's
us from urban sprawl. Yeah.
urban sprawl. So, which ironically, it kind of what we have here. We obviously have the ocean, right, here in West Palm. But then if we go just further west, then we get
Alligators.
into the Everglades, right? And I mean, they're not going to be draining that, I mean, there's big environmental thing, Everglades is
Yeah.
great. I mean, it really is. If you ever been there and visited,
Yeah.
the amount of wildlife and seen it in person is
Yeah,
incredible.
it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, right? So they're not going to, so we're kind of like similar
It's
thing.
swamp. It's probably hard to develop.
Hard to develop. Well, they did drain some of it, and they at one time tried to. Now they're turning it back into more wetlands. There's like big, huge, projects that are going on for that actually.
Super cool. And then I think I don't know how much you're familiar with the headwinds we have here in Ontario specifically. Like we have It's about 8 months to get a hearing for non-payment of rent, for example.
Wow.
Yeah, we have rent control. We can only raise our rents
Yeah, I
two and a half
remember. Yeah,
percent,
I was speaking to a couple of investors that I had, and they said, Ryan,
Yeah,
like, yeah, we can only raise our rent a certain
two and a half
percentage.
percent, 3.5%
How does that
BCs.
make sense?
Yeah, I say it to people all the time. Like, Ryan, you're a smart guy, but max salary increase is 2.5%. Yeah, here's the contract. Sign it now.
And that doesn't even keep up with inflation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is why we're
You could be
talking.
losing money on
No, we are losing money.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, we don't have that there. I mean, that's one beautiful thing is like, we saw rental increases and we're still seeing them.
Mhm.
Rental increases, especially in the last, obviously since COVID, but even now, like I'm seeing, I mean, get ready, Erwin. We're seeing here not like in super high end areas, but I'm seeing studios like in like Lake Worth Beach, which I have a lot of investors buying there, which is just south of West Palm, right? Studios going for like, $2,000, $2,200 a month on an annual lease. And then, those things furnished, right? During the season, you're looking at, you know, 4 to 5 thousand, you know, dollars a month for, seasonal rentals. So, little studios, they're small. This one that I just did that are just, my client just rented out. We're talking like 400 or 500 square feet.
Oh, okay, a little bachelor. Okay, we call them
Yeah,
bachelor apartments here.
yeah, little bachelor. But and that's the thing is like, they're just not, the rental inventory is just, really low here as well. So, people want to be down here for the season or just need just a place and you're a young professional. That's kind of
hmm
what the market is now right now.
Big news up here as well. For example, British Columbia just came out with an Airbnb ban, basically outside your own home or in municipalities under 10,000 population. I know New York City did something similar. I think it's New
Hmm.
York City or New York State. I'm not American. I don't follow it that closely.
Yeah, I heard New York City.
New York City. And
Yep.
then anything on the horizon for Florida, West Palm,
Yeah,
anything?
if they try to ban short-term rentals here, like in this market, especially in West Palm, I mean, there might be a few areas in Miami, like I know in South Beach, like the homes there, they've never been able to do short-term rental there. That's kind of, but it's like an artsy area and just all the
Right.
homeowners.
Is that HOA or is that the government?
No, that's the local municipality there in that
Okay.
area in South Beach. But like here in West Palm, they'd be shooting themselves in the foot because there's just not enough hotels for the people to stay. So like all the commerce of all the people here on vacation
hmm
spending money here, it just wouldn't make sense, right?
hmm
I know, like I know the mayor here in West Palm personally. He works a lot with this, accelerator that I'm involved with, and the real trade went through called 1909. And yeah, they're very pro development and no real estate restrictions.
So
Yeah.
say, as I mentioned, to just get a hearing to dispute a non-payment of rent is 8 months. And here up here in Ontario, what if so? Say I'm your tenant, I stop paying rent. What's like next? And I refuse to pay rent.
So if you're
I have no
late,
plans to catch up.
yeah. So if you're late, if you're, let's say you're late 2 weeks, you can put a notice, okay, on their door, right, to vacate in 30 days, right? And then if they do nothing, right, they sit there and then you have to evict them. It's another 30 days. So it's 60 days, 60 days to evict, and they're out. Like the sheriff's showing up at the door. You know, yeah, we don't. We definitely in Florida, we're very pro business right here in Florida. Obviously, a lot of great things want to say about DeSantis. He's made a lot of passed a lot of laws and done a lot of things for business, and especially when it comes to real estate. We have no rent controls. If you have to evict someone, it's a pretty easy process, not that
hmm
difficult.
hmm
Um, yeah, we have a lot of things in place for that.
And this the sheriff. That's law enforcement. That's not a
Right.
specific. Okay, yeah, because we have sheriffs here, but that's not law enforcement. This is specific. I don't even know why. I don't know why we need different levels of law enforcement. Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't believe in
yeah,
property rights here in Ontario and Canada.
yeah. We're very pro property rights, especially here in Florida. I mean, we have a great, I don't know how it works in Canada, but we have, homestead laws here in Florida, right? Where you can homestead your home as your primary, residence, right? And your real estate taxes can only increase 3% a year. That's it, right? And then also, if you ever get sued, like that's your homestead, right? And they can't go after your own personal asset. So that's why you see a lot of celebrities, right, that come to Florida and they'll put a bunch of money into real estate and then they'll homestead it, right? Because, you know, everybody's going after them to get sued. So,
Yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah.
there's obviously other tax advantages as well of, you know,
Right.
investing in real estate here, especially the depreciation side of it. You can depreciate the asset and you can weight it on the first 2 years. So basically you're paying no taxes on your rental income, especially for
Right.
the first couple of years.
Right. So you're able to use the depreciation, which is a paper loss, a paper expense, to deduct against your income in the first 2 years. Do you know how much? Is like 50% or like what is it? That's what I had.
Yeah, I think
50% is like what do you do for like a laptop, a piece of technology. House is a little bit
yeah,
different.
no, it's like I think it's like almost all of it. Like, you know, like all my
Really?
investors, they're
That's
yeah,
so
they
pro
depreciate
investor.
almost all of it. Yeah, there's another reason too that actually in each different asset class has its different formula of like, you know, like there's one big reason a lot of investors they buy these like self-storage, you know, facilities is like they have a huge like write-off that they can have depreciation because the way they're built, you know, the corrugated metal and they need replacement in so many years. So you see all these investors that do these storage facilities, fill them up, keep them for like 2 or 3 years, right? And then sell them and then go to the next one. And they just, you know, keep doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. And we have this too, and I don't know if they have this in Canada, but one thing that we did do well here, which a lot of investors are taking advantage of, is we have what are called opportunity zones. So these are areas that have been designated, okay, to invest in real estate. That if you buy real estate there, right, in these different designated areas, these kind of like up and coming transition areas or lower income areas, um, you keep it for 10 years, Erwin, you don't pay any capital gains tax. So yeah, so I have a lot of investors now that are like, you know, they have these big, you know, like they might have this delayed taxes where they've been 1031ing these properties for
Hmm.
years, Erwin, and they'll then 1031 finally into an opportunity zone where they found an asset they really wanted. And now they're keeping that asset, and then they won't realize any taxes at the end of 10 years.
Are they Section 8? Are these areas in
It's
Section
like
8?
not they're not all Section 8. You know, there's definitely some Section areas in them, but yeah, I'm very aware of opportunity zones. There's a big area just north of West Palm here called Northwood. There's some different areas down
That's
south.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's great, and it really revitalizes the area. You can see it happening in
Yeah, you
real
want to
time.
bring money to an area?
Yeah, new development, like they're building multifamily, new development. You know, build to rent here is a pretty hot market right now too. You know, where build to rent, you know, where they're building, properties just to rent out. So yeah, they're going into these areas and gentrifying them, Erwin.
Can I get your opinion on Section 8? Do you like it? Dislike it? It's okay.
So
Or
I've had
part of a
clients over the
portfolio?
yeah. No, I've had clients over the years that have had Section 8 rentals. I mean, the nice thing is obviously you get your rent every month, but one thing that because it's subsidized, right, that you're going to do it. But one thing that they do Section 8 does do is they go in on their own and check on the tenants, right, to make sure that they're, keeping the properties up into a certain standard and it's not, turning into, something that's unhealthy, right? So
Hmm.
they have their own people checking on the property to make sure that they're taking care of your asset, which is one nice thing of Section 8. And then they have a model, right, what size, home or condo or apartment that you own of what you can rent it for. So
Hmm.
Section 8 rentals, I actually, from the clients that I've had over the years, they were fine with them. They said, they weren't saying super positive things about it, but they weren't saying too many negative things about it.
Interesting.
It's usually like what qualifies for like single mothers, a lot of single mothers in Section 8.
For the listeners' benefit, can you share what Section 8 is? Like, we don't
Yeah.
have any, which is funny because we're supposed to be the socialist country, but we have nothing like this, as far as I know.
No, it's actually, I mean, it makes it affordable, especially man, if you're a single mother and you're trying to pay rent right now, it can be super expensive because the rent prices are higher. So basically what it is, it's government subsidized housing, where any investor can go in and offer their property into this
Hmm.
marketplace, Section 8, right? And then Section 8 goes out, okay, and has these tenants that they have to qualify on a certain income. Like I said, usually single mothers making X amount of money, usually have to under a certain amount
Yeah.
of money.
Yeah, well below the
They,
average. Yeah.
yeah, well below the average. Then Section 8 goes, goes, okay, we will pay the rent, okay, on your home at this rate that we've set. this tenant's going to move in here. Okay, they're going to sign a lease. They have to, keep it up to a certain standard. Matter of fact, we're going to check to make sure that they're keeping up to a certain standard. And usually what they do, ironically, is they do have sometimes, depends on the tenant, where the tenant might pay like 100 or 200 a month on their own too. Sometimes too, to just help them kind of start to pay rent and get used to that. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
And
so
just so for listeners' benefit, the government's subsidizing the rent. They don't. It's not their property. It's the investor's property.
it's investors' property. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're guaranteed the rent. I mean, the U.S. government's going to be paying you your rent, not the tenant.
Yeah. Again, if there's any listeners out there and knows of a program that's similar here, like please let me know. But as far as I know, there isn't.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's like it's obviously it's lower. It's lower income. Tenants, right? And
Hmm.
usually the properties that kind of make sense for that type of investment are usually like your more transition areas like your
Hmm.
community zones, right? That those deals make
But
sense.
it's got to be where the rent's affordable. It's just reality,
Yeah, so
uh,
it's pretty, like I said, I've had investors. I haven't heard anything like bad,
right?
you know, about them, that they've been happy with them. There's some that's all they do. There's investors that's all they do is Section 8 rentals.
I've spoken to some investors. Their eyes just light up when you talk about Section 8. It's
Especially if
and
you're
you're
going into an opportunity zone, Irwin. Like if you're
yeah.
going into an opportunity zone, right, and you have a Section 8 property, and like I said, in 10 years, you decide to exit that, and you've had a great return all those 10 years, and now you don't have to pay any kind of capital gains tax. It's pretty advantageous.
Yeah, this is why people want to give up their citizenship in
Trying
Canada.
to invest in American real estate. No, we got a lot of great things too. Like I said, as far as on the state level as well, right? As far as like headquartering your business here, we have no state income tax, in Florida. So like you're thinking like, wow, like you have no state income tax, so which is benefit for you. But what of all the other people in the United States that want to take advantage of that too? And that's why we're seeing this big influx, like I said, of a net migration to Florida versus all these other states that we're seeing here in South Florida. Yeah.
Amazing, Ryan. I
Yeah.
had another question, but I forget what it was. But so I'll just flip back to Airbnb.
Mhm.
When you're working with a new investor, like setting expectations around an entry level investment property, like what do they need to know? What do they need to know if they're going to buy a $300,000-$400,000 house in an Airbnb? Like, do they have to go buy the towels and like be on call to get ready to, change bed sheets? Like, what's the expectation for a new investor?
Yeah. So the nice thing here is, which I have in my network, and we have some on Real Trade, we have, there's short-term property rental management companies, right? That can handle everything. They can handle the booking, the property maintenance, the towels, the toothbrushes, you know, all those types of things, as far as that. And they're going to normally charge, anywhere from 15 to 25%. I would say the average is probably about 20%, that they're going to charge. Now, if you do like a kind of a hybrid model, right, which we discussed,
Hmm.
obviously you wouldn't have to pay those large fees. There's other property management companies. If you did like a 6-month rental, or maybe like a 4-month or whatever, they're going to charge a lot less, like 10% or less. So there's different options, depending on what your goals are, right, of what your returns, what they want to be.
Yeah, ever since the pandemic, I never had spoken to so many people that are interested in spending the winters in Florida. And it's usually Florida they talk about. I'm actually scratching my head to think about when have they named another state.
I mean, you don't name like Texas, right? Like, oh, I want to go to Texas and spend the winter there. It can get cold in Texas, right? And the quality, like I said, of life here, as far as like your outdoor activities on the ocean, right? The golfing, like it's perfect. Like,
Hmm.
just say, remember I grew up in northern Minnesota. It's like it's perfect
Yeah,
here.
northern Minnesota. So sorry, I wanted to touch on this earlier. How far to drive to get to Winnipeg from where you were living?
Yeah, it was only like an hour.
That's
So like
it?
I was right up at the border. Yeah, right up at the northern border of Minnesota is where I grew up, Erwin.
What's the name of the city?
Uh, Thief River Falls. Thief River Falls.
How you
Yep.
spell that?
Thief River Falls, Minnesota. Yeah, yeah. You can see it's way up there, northwest. Like, yeah, one of the most desolate areas. Well, everybody knows that movie Fargo, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, Fargo was like an hour away, right? So it was like Winnipeg or Fargo. We'd go to Winnipeg, up there.
That's where the party was at, not Fargo. It was
Yeah, no, not Fargo, but
only an hour away. That's hilarious. Okay, so for example, okay, I'm very wow. You were really north.
way up there.
Like
Hockey town.
you
I
were
played
north of
hockey.
Thunder Bay.
Yeah, we're way up there. Yeah, we're like, if you look at where it's at, big hockey town. I grew up playing hockey, all that good stuff. That's why I get with Canadians so well, Erwin. I know the culture very well. You know,
That's crazy. You were yeah. I never looked at the map. Yeah,
think about
the border, the southern border from Manitoba is north of Thunder Bay, so you were very north. You know
yeah.
cold.
Oh, I definitely know it. Like I said, that's why, I was way ahead of the curve. Like I said, I've been here 25 years, right? So, um, yeah, and I mean Florida too. Like it's just, West Palm. I was speaking of that because I'm in real estate here, but I spend time down the Florida Keys, and you can drive down to Key West, and everybody knows Jimmy Buffett, right? And in Margaritaville and all that cool lifestyle in the Keys. We got that whole area of South Florida. It's not that far here.
Hmm.
I can drive down to Key West. I can be down there in like a little over 4 hours,
Hmm.
and be down and enjoy that beautiful drive all the way down and being like you're in the Caribbean. So, yeah, there's just so many great things that are happening here. Of course, you have the huge Miami scene. Now, too, I don't know if I told you this because this is new since last time I was on the podcast. The high-speed train now runs to Orlando. So you can take,
How new is that? How old is that? Is that
they just,
really new? That's really new.
yeah, I know. That's within the last like few months that they finished that leg. I know we were speaking last time that they were building it. So now you want to go to Disney World, right? 2 hours. 2 hours by
No,
train.
really?
Yes. By
Because it
train,
isn't like how long's the drive?
like 2 hours. A
But
little bit.
you can train it instead. Just
Yeah, do,
relax.
do the high speed train, right? And just relax the whole way there. Bring
How
you
much
right.
is it? How much is the
I
train?
haven't
How long
taken
does
it
it
to
take to get to
Orlando
Miami?
yet. Yeah, for Miami, it can be as little as $20.
That's it?
$20. Like you can't even park your car or wind down there for that. That's what I'm saying. Like by the headache, it just doesn't make sense for me. I haven't drove to Miami in 3 years. Like I'll just go down there, go right down to Brickell downtown, and then just take an Uber, anywhere else I want to go for fun. You can go over to South Beach for like an $8 Uber ride. Like it just doesn't make sense, right? So
Nice infrastructure improvement.
that's what it be. There's big infrastructure improvements here, that we're having here too,
Yeah.
and obviously we got like, everybody knows we got cruise ships, like, we got like a little short cruise out of West Palm. Actually, it's called Margaritaville Cruise Line. Jimmy Buffett was investor in that. Heck of an entrepreneur. If you ever want to read a cool history about entrepreneurs, because I know you love entrepreneurs, Jimmy Buffett, man, he took literally that one song, Margaritaville, and turned it into $1 billion empire.
Yeah, there's a Margaritaville in every like carnival ship. Is it Carnival? I forget what ship it is. Which cruise
Yeah,
line?
yeah. And this one's actually his own. It's called the Margaritaville cruise ship, and you can check it. It leaves out of your West Palm, but it's just a fun short trip. Brings you to the Bahamas, right? It's just a couple nights that you go over there, which is a cool little cruise. Goes right from the port of Palm Beach, which is my point is like you have all these things to do around here. You have so many activities and fun stuff to do that it's
Well, you need lots of activities because you're not locked up for half the year because you're trying to avoid the winter
yeah,
because the weather's trying to kill you.
yeah. I know it. I know it, everyone. So yeah, so it's yeah, no, it's the quality of life. Like I said, ROL. Everybody talks,
Mhm.
ROI, which is great, but the return on life, that lifestyle, man, at the end of the day, it's just so rewarding. So many, great things to enjoy in Florida.
I call it ROG, return on grief. I
Yeah,
need a
right.
lot of return for my grief. And my grief is too high these days with rent control and landlord tenant board and yeah, so
Yeah.
I
I
need to
can't
find
believe
my
they make
exit.
that. Why do they make it harder to like invest in real estate? That does, I mean, if you want to like, grow an economy, right? To create wealth for your basically, your constituents, right? Your voters, real estate's like one of the best ways to do it. You'd
Yeah,
think you'd want people to have access to that and
you'd
be
think
very
so, but
pro.
yeah.
Yeah.
We don't like to do things for the rich people here. That's why we don't have any rich people, and they just keep leaving. Yeah,
Yeah, right. We have a
they
lot
don't
we have a lot
understand
of
that capital is mobile.
yeah. Well, that's what I mean. That's what I could say about here. Like we have the rich people that are moving here
Yeah,
and they're
yeah, yeah,
bringing their expertise, right? They're bringing their connections, they're bringing their network,
yeah.
right? So it's just Florida in general, especially South Florida on this side. that's why I'm so bullish on it. Like it's
Hmm.
like have some of the highest quality, smartest minds, in the United States that are moving here. These big, big entrepreneurs, all that
Amazing.
kind of good stuff.
Ryan, any
Well,
final
Robert,
thoughts? We're running out of time.
yeah. No, I mean, I would just say this, I want to kind of get this out there because, I've worked with Canadian investors, over the years, obviously, and had some great success. Some have had, real estate's one of these things is like, you got to take some risk, and I've seen a lot of, some Canadian investors that I've worked with that have sat on the sidelines, maybe looking for the perfect time, right, to do it, or, looking for like the perfect deal. And, there's never like a perfect, deal, right, or a perfect time. You're going to have to take some risk. But I will tell you this, Erwin, for any investor that I've seen that's bought and held a property for over 5 to 6 years, I haven't had one that say, wow, I regretted doing that. You know what I mean? It's, all of that I've had, have been, very happy with their real estate investment, especially in the last 15 years. It's like what would have to change in Florida that's going to like totally drastically do that? I mean, we're going to have like a big, all of a sudden, Florida, is it like a great area to be because it's, cools down or something like that? I mean, I can't imagine that. It's just still, people are coming down here to enjoy, you know, everything we spoke about the weather and the lifestyle and all the activities. I mean, that's always going to be here. Same with all the, like, we're not going to switch up all these tax advantages, these pro business things that have worked for Florida. Like, that's not going to get switched up. So,
And it's worked out because you're stealing human capital from California and New York. My point about capital being mobile.
dude, it is like it's a real thing, Erwin. Like we're bringing all this talent here, and it's going to become more and more valuable, right? And they're going to tell more and more people, and that's what's happening. Love to see you down here, Erwin.
I'll make it eventually. I need to sell some houses first. I
Yeah,
can't let
do
the
it.
socialists control me. And that's my point. Is I feel like very much I've lost control, which is like
Yeah.
the last thing any entrepreneur wants, right?
So, well, let me tell you a funny story. And this is a fellow entrepreneur that I met here when building Real Trade, and successful entrepreneur. But he was down in South America, down in Brazil, right? And he was an entrepreneur, worked super super hard building his business, and all of a sudden the currency went down to nothing, right?
Okay.
And all of a sudden the government changed his rules, like literally overnight. They got a new government in there. He's like, Ryan, I had to literally start over at 35 years old with all the wealth that I had created at 25. He goes, the first thing I did is I got out of there. If I got out of the
Yeah.
world, I moved to the United States, and he goes, I had to start over. But here, then I was seeing him 15 years later. He was like 50 years old, and he built another awesome business, and he sold
Hmm.
it, and he was doing well.
Yeah, you
So,
can't give up. Oh,
yeah.
Ryan, there's a question I forgot to ask around legal structure. How are Canadians buying properties in Florida? Just drop
Yeah,
in a credit card, come with a personal check. What do they
yeah,
do?
no, lending, no, a lot of some of the, a lot of the investors I was speaking with lenders, right? Some have paid cash, right? Some of them have paid cash. Um, I will say this, like, I have a network, some great lenders. Scott Dillingham with Lend City was awesome. He's on Real Trade now, so obviously they can reach out to him there, right? Um, and the rates obviously fluctuate with the market, but he has a number of products that he can offer them. And then as far as the entity and the legal structure, that's something that he can help with, right? That's going to, because there's different ways to structure it based on, the tax advantages, right? So he can have different ways that they can speak to that. And then obviously that the lending institutions would want to see, right? That they
Hmm.
can lend. So,
Hmm. Yeah, that's
I
what I
mean, I
like about
think,
Scott. Is that Lend City will handhold you through this.
yeah, they can definitely handhold you through that, right? So, I mean, the investor, I had a lot of cash buyers that have purchased, they purchased under LLCs and different things
Hmm.
too, which are basically you can create LLCs here. I'm sure similar in Canada, right? So each state you can register your LLC in that state, and that becomes an entity that you can then purchase assets through, right, and protect
Hmm.
them, through the LLC. And there's different ways you can do it though. You can set up a trust then, and then put the LLC in a trust, and there's a bunch of different ways that they
Hmm.
can
Yeah,
do it.
definitely speak to
But
your
you're right.
accountant
You're
or
right.
lawyer.
Yeah, yeah. It's something to your wife, right? She could
She
help.
practices here in Canada. Yeah, everyone should speak to their own accountant.
Yeah,
It's
don't we have some great
because everyone's
attorneys?
situation is different, right? Because
Yeah,
I don't have
yeah.
cash, so I'm gonna need to talk to the accountant lawyer that doesn't deal with just cash buying.
Exactly. But we got some great attorneys on Real Trade too that can help, and some great title companies that we have to make sure, all the I's and dots are, crossed, dotted. So all that good stuff.
Fantastic. Where can people find real trade?
Yeah, you can just Google Real Trade. It's going to be the first one that shows up, but the URL is actually realtrade.io. So you can find it there. I would implore you to check it out, as far as like you can look for properties for sale, right? Or rent. You could look for properties for sale or rent, get a good idea on the market. And the cool thing is you can connect with real estate professionals. I'm on there every single day, so you'll definitely see me and connect with me on there. But you'll see Scott with Lens City on there. You see a lot of other real estate professionals on there as well, whether they're inspectors, appraisers, contractors, any of those types, other real estate agents on there too as well. You can always get a hold of me, you know.
I'm on there now. I'm like, oh, there's a listing here.
Yeah,
17 South L left Street 1. What?
yeah, that's one of my listings actually.
Yeah,
That's one of my
I laugh
rental
because I see
listings.
your picture on it now. So I'm like, oh, of course Scott's. Sorry,
That's
of
one of
course
my
Ryan's listings on. But yeah, one bed like 680 square foot, 2,750 American. That's about what we get for 680 square feet in Toronto.
Yeah, they're getting that. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Wait, is
that's
this a
this is
house? There's like this roof
no,
is frontal.
that's a multifamily investor bot. I just put that on the market. I'm actually got a lease getting.
Oh,
I know it's a cute. Isn't that cool? That's in Lake Worth Beach, Irwin. That's just south of downtown West Palm.
super cool.
Isn't that cool?
Nice
Built,
looking house.
yeah, back in the 20s. Yeah, you got a great deal on that. Was so just kind of highlight that one's that was 4 units, right? That he got for 800,000. It's one bedroom and then 3 studios, and yeah, he's going to get about $2,000 a month annual for the studios, and then for the one bedroom, he'll probably get about 2,700 for the one bedroom on an annual basis. So that would be 2, 4, 6.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, almost 11,000. Almost 11,000 a month. You know, which what is that? On $800,000 purchase.
Didn't need much renovation.
Nothing. He bought it just like that with fully furnished and everything. I got him a good deal on that one, Aaron. He's super, super happy with that asset.
But this is a ground floor unit.
They're
This
all
looks
ground
great.
floors. Yeah, they're
Oh,
all,
okay, okay, okay.
yeah. So you have kind of like a single family home up in the front, the one bedroom, then you have a studio and then 2 more studios and another building in the back.
Yeah, and a nice patio in the back.
Yeah.
The colors are, yeah, the colors are Florida. Light blues.
I'm always doing deals like that, like on a personal level, obviously, too, working with the investors that I've had over the years. And, I'm happy to help any of your friends or your clients, Erwin.
Amazing.
Let's build wealth in America, say what you
Yeah.
want, 75% of US millionaires, Erwin, made in real estate. Still the best wealth generator. I know we love, in America, stocks and crypto and all these other alternative investments, but real estate's been one of the best.
Yeah, it's part of a diversified portfolio.
Yeah.
Ryan, where can people get a hold of you?
So yeah, you can go and register on Real Trade. I'll see you there. And then also you can just email me at Ryan Poole at realtrade.io. More than happy there. You can connect with me on Facebook. We're friends. Erwin and I get to see all his cool posts I love your grilling out, by the way, and your barbecue. I mean, I look at your posts and I'm like, man, I'm hungry. It's good. It's
Yeah.
your grilling out and barbecue game is top notch.
Yeah, but I have like a week or two left of this, and then it has to stop for the winter.
That's another thing too. We get to barbecue year round.
Until the gator gets you. No, I'm kidding. I don't have to come back for you. Ryan, thanks so much for doing this. Happy Halloween.
You too, Erwin. It's been great.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to invest in real estate from scratch, my team teaches beginners how to use the #1 investment strategy that I personally use in a virtual free training class every month. Go to investortraining.ca/YouTube to register for our next class. The link's also in the description as well. I publish at least 2 to 3 videos a week here, so subscribe if you want to keep learning from seasoned investors like myself and my guests. And if you're just starting out, feel free to ask questions and comment below, and I do the best to answer each of those comments and questions myself. Again, if you're ready to learn the nitty-gritty about real estate investing from a professional investor, register for our next virtual class. That's at investortraining.ca/YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.